Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Path. I'm your host, Jim Lee. I'm super excited for all of you to be here with us. In this show, we're going to be talking about the real estate investor's journey. Not just the highlights, but the real, raw path a real estate investor needs to take in order to achieve their vision. Whether you are a first-time real estate investor or someone who's a seasoned pro, we're going to deep dive into things, wins, losses, lessons, and what it takes to really build a real estate portfolio. I have a special guest today. His name is Chad. Welcome, Chad.
Thank you, Jim. Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So Chad and I have been business partners for a couple of years now. He is a rocket scientist. Very, very cool, interesting background. He's been a contractor. He's got, master's MBA at UCLA. He's got a list of accolades that it would take me forever to list them all out. But I want to give Chad the floor to kind of give us a context and his background.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Jim. Excited. Yeah, we've known each other for several years now and done work together in the real estate space, and excited for our mutual journeys. It's never a dull moment in real estate. So I started actually in the mid '90s in real estate. In construction and engineering, and that's kind of where my first foray into real estate was through construction. And I always loved construction, loved building things. Eventually went into civil engineering, structural engineering, a lot of design work. And then I actually, like you mentioned, worked on the space shuttle main engines for 7 years. And did that working for a company called Rocketdyne, which was a subsidiary of Boeing at the time. And loved it. Wasn't too hot on the bureaucracy. It was a little much for me on the bureaucracy side, but did amazing things. But I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, so eventually I went to start a business with my brother, a lighting business here in Los Angeles, and grew that business over a period of like 17 years to about 75 employees. And we worked with a lot of high-end, expensive homes and businesses here in Los Angeles. And one of the things I realized is a lot of my clients had invested in real estate. And so that got me thinking more about real estate, even though I started in construction, but like thinking about it on the investor side of things. And eventually I started investing in real estate around 2015, and then I sold the business in 2018, and I finally said, you know what, I'm going into this full time. I really wanted to do it. I wanted to try to scale within the real estate space, and so I went into it full time in 2018. And started investing in multifamily properties here in California, which is an animal in of its own, and then eventually started investing out of state. You and I met at a conference and put our heads together about investing in bigger deals out of state and in the multifamily space, and then eventually started diversifying a bit more into self-storage. And been off to the races. So it's been a wild ride since 2018. We've seen a lot. We've seen some highs. We've seen some lows. Definitely has been a time period with its own challenges that we're still continuing to work through, and lots of lessons learned. But it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you a quick question. Does it take to be a rocket scientist to do well in real estate investing?
What do you mean? Do you have to be a rocket scientist to do well in real estate?
It was just a joke. It doesn't require to be rocket science.
Yeah.
In general, to do anything. But
it's not rocket science.
Yeah. So wanted to ask, in terms of your background, when you started with the entrepreneurship with your brother, and you built such a successful business, running company of 75 employees, you know that in real estate it's all about it's a relationship business, right? That's why you and I ended up meeting at a conference. That's why we go out to network with people. Were you able to leverage those relationships that you built with those luxury home owners back in the day? Because it's all about building your personal brand. And were you able to leverage that, take that clientele and get them shifted to invest in real estate with you?
The answer is no. I haven't done a single deal or a single investment from any of my prior clients, which you could probably argue I'm leaving a lot on the table because these were all the millionaires and billionaires of LA. Any A-list celebrity you can think of, we were decorating and doing lighting for their homes. So, but with that type of clientele, you're dealing with like layers of management, right? So you're not dealing with the client directly. You're dealing and maybe sometimes not even dealing with the house manager. It might be the assistant to the house manager, right? They literally have layers of help within these compounds. So no, I never leveraged any of that. I learned a lot about running a business and the importance of culture and processes and stuff like that. Finances and that sort of stuff has been really helpful on the real estate side, but not the clients per se.
I see. And so when you're in that business, how did you guys find your clients? Like how did they find you? How were you able to develop the relationship with them to basically serve their needs when it comes to lighting? Yeah,
so we built up those relationships over time. We started out, it was a very, very small company. It was just, me, my brother, and some workers, really. So, it started from nothing. And, we didn't even start in the garage. We had the attic above the garage is technically where we started the business of my parents' house. So it started very small and then just growing over time. And eventually, you serve a customer really well and then you get referrals. And at that level, a lot of like the house managers, property managers, like they talk to each other and kind of share leads and whatnot, referrals. So it is a very much a referral-based business, and we had to really execute well for the clients that we had, and then we'd get referrals, and that's how we grew the business. We did do plenty of advertising that helped, but I'd say the biggest part of the growth was from clients talking to each other. And having a good reputation in the industry, and putting the client first and just growing one client at a time.
Yeah. So how does that compare? How does that form of advertisement compare to what you and I do on a daily basis? As an entrepreneur, as a real estate investor, we're constantly focusing on getting more exposure, whether it's building a real estate meetup like what I'm doing, being on social media, right, all the time, joining mastermind groups, joining webinars, even writing books, right? Any forms of just getting more exposure, getting people to know, like, and trust you over time, and how many touches they actually see you on a consistent basis. So how does that form of advertisement, what you used to do, compare to what we do? Is there any different, any similarities? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I would say it is different. It's different in that I think from a real estate standpoint, it's a much bigger relationship-based business, and those relationships take time to establish. It's not like with a customer or B2C type of approach. Like, okay, they hire you to do something and you do it. You got to execute well, but like that first step into doing business together is actually pretty quick. They might need to see you in advertising and hear referrals and whatnot, but then they take the step, right? I think that's a lot different than, if you're partnering up with somebody or bringing, $100,000 investor into one of your deals. Like that takes deeper relationships than you might have on a normal B2C type of business. So I think the lead times to developing that is a lot more, and you have to be a lot more diligent about that. That's why, I've been a part of a lot of conferences and mastermind groups to kind of work on developing those relationships, because they take time before someone will take that first step to doing business with you.
Yeah. So something I want to share with the audience is that Chad here, he's the first person to get me to attend my very, very, very first real estate meetup here in LA called Phoebe Multifamily. Without Chad, I wouldn't have started to build my own community. Who currently, Christina, she's my mentor. She's been doing this for 10 years, and she basically has helped me, guide me through this process. And so, first of all, I want to thank you for that, for getting me started. And because without that, that invite when you were speaking for Phoebe Multifamily, I don't think that none of this would be possible. But going back to your point is that, you attend these meetups, you attend these conferences. Can you elaborate a little bit about that? Why is it that you do what you do? And what type of results are you seeing by doing it? And can you share some examples of something that you've been into, maybe potential partnership that went well, and a potential partnership that didn't do well, and what are the lessons behind both scenarios?
Sure. So I've found that conferences and mastermind groups can kind of help compress timeframes and get you from where you want to go faster. And it takes an investment in time and money to do that, but it's time and money, right? So if I can do things faster and with people and partnerships, then I can get to where I want to get to faster, and I can also help others around me get to where they want to get to. And you've been a big part of that, right? I mean, I've helped you out along the way, like you mentioned, bringing you to the Phoebe and some other things to help out, right? Like I don't ask for anything in return; I just want to help. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's important to kind of give back. One of my other side hustles is I've been a TV host for 12 years, and I've experienced in Hollywood, like there's not a very abundant atmosphere in Hollywood, right? Mm-hmm. It very as much, you're on your own, every man for himself, and it's pretty cutthroat. But in real estate, it's like totally opposite, right? Real estate, like everyone really has an abundant mindset. They want to help each other out. There's millions of deals out there. There's millions of dollars. Like there's just a lot. And so people are a lot more helpful in the real estate industry than they are in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And so for me, like it was very comforting to come into real estate and say like, wow, everyone wants to help me. Like, and at first I was a little nervous, like, well, why do you want to help me? Like, what's the angle that you're trying to get on me?
Is this a cult?
Yes. Why are you doing this? And eventually I realized that no, people really do want to help each other. Mm-hmm. And that was like really, really comforting to be a part of. And so I've always appreciated that. And I've had people that have helped me. And I've wanted to give back to others in the way that people have given to me. That doesn't happen in Hollywood. It's very, very rare. Mm. So going to conferences and kind of meeting with other people and finding out how I can help them. And there's that one famous saying, from maybe Zig Ziglar, that says, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. Mm-hmm. So, not positive it's Zig Ziglar, but it's a famous saying. And so I live by that, right? And so I try to help out as many people as I can. Going to conferences is a big part of that. And developing those relationships, networking within conferences is pretty important. And then on the mastermind part of it and mentorship, like I didn't get my first mentor until I was like into my 40s, right? Mm-hmm. I wish I would have done that a long time ago because I could have saved myself a lot of headaches and moved a lot faster than I did if I would have invested in myself a little bit more with mentorships and mastermind groups. So like right now, I'm a part of 3 mastermind groups. Wow. And it's very helpful to help me continue my own personal growth, my business growth. And so I invest in myself. I think I've probably done like $250,000 now, I think is what I'm up to in mastermind groups. So it is an investment, right? You got to think of it as that, not an expense, but an investment in yourself. And then like anything, you get out of it what you put into it. So it takes a lot of time and travel and being with people in these mastermind groups, but I get a lot out of it. So that's why I keep doing it. Okay,
great. So elaborate on that. I mean, first of all, I want to ask you, with the 3 mastermind groups, I noticed that a lot of people, when they first get excited about joining a mastermind group, they're like, okay, yeah, I want to join this, I want to join that. And then they get themselves in there thinking mastermind is about information, but not just like what you touched upon, not necessary. It's more about the relationship that you're building, right, in the mastermind group. So tell me a little bit more about these 3 masterminds. Why would you decide to join so many of them? Are you able to contribute as much time as you would like in each mastermind group to develop these relationships within the community of each one of them?
Yeah, so relationships are a big part of that for sure. I'm a lifelong learner, so like learning and education is a really big part of that for me as well. But you could make the argument that the relationships are more important than the education that you receive there. But really, I like to go after both of them. And the mastermind groups can help, get you to where you want to get to faster. But I think what people need to be careful of is the whole shiny object syndrome. And, they get antsy on a weekend. They say, okay, I'm tired of banging my head against the wall. I want to join a group and go. Like, okay, that's good to take that first step. But I think what's a lot of people fall into is that it's not that you're going to make this investment into a mastermind group and it's going to solve your problems. Like, it's very, very rare that happens. Like, you need to have the time and energy to put into something like this, because you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So a lot of people might sign up for one of these groups and maybe they're really active for a month or two or something like that, and then it'll subside, and then they find something else they want to do, and they move on. And I think that's a trap that a lot of people fall into. So if you really want to get the most out of a mastermind group, you really need to be able to put the time into it.
Right.
And I'll give you an example. So like I've been a part of Raise Masters for like 3 years now. Most people are in it for a year, maybe 2 years. I've been in it for 3 years. And for me, it's a lot about the relationships. I've been a part of the real estate guys group for probably 4 years now, right? And again, I've seen a lot of people come and go. I've been a part of the Entrepreneurs Organization for 13 years. And I literally just went through this last year where I wasn't as involved in EO as I had been. I was kind of, pulling away from it just because of, life, whatever, life happens. Sure. And I came up, it's literally just this last month, I had to make a decision like, okay, well, am I going to renew or not? And it's, several $1,000s to be a part of these groups. And I had to make a decision for myself. Am I going to show up enough to get the value out of it and be able to provide the value to the organization? Or should I just, leave? And there's no problem with leaving. People do it every day. But in the end, I decided, I got to re-engage. I got to start showing up to the events. I got to be reaching out to the other members and kind of keep nurturing those relationships to really get value out of the group. And it's funny we're talking about this because I literally just went through this last month. And that was like my own thought process. I hadn't realized how much I had, been unengaged with the organization over the last year, because life happens, right? I mean, I've got 5 kids, 2 companies, like it's crazy, and it's easy to forget about those things and put them by the wayside. And at some point, you got to have a heart-to-heart with yourself and say, hey, am I going to show up or am I not? And if you're not going to show up, cut your losses and go do something else and put your energy somewhere else. But don't try to straddle both and then be mediocre at everything. You know what I'm saying? So I decided, I got to re-engage, and that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, that's something I preach to my community all the time. Don't ever half-ass, because I'm not the type of person to half-ass. Like, once I start something, I'm committed. I'm going all in. But yeah, that's a great point you brought up. And also, touch upon the mastermind group that you're in. Like, let's say, for example, when you say Raise Master and Real Estate Guys, you seem very committed, right? 3-4 years straight, 12 years with the entrepreneur organization. You are consistent, and that's what most people lack, the consistency, I would say. Because if all of us could be consistent, we'd be all very successful in whatever we're consistently doing, right? So what type of results were you able to get from all that consistency that you've been with these groups? Because I know a lot of people, they join mastermind for 1 year and they'll hop around, right? They'll quit this mastermind and go try out another one. They usually don't stay for that long period of time. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts on that. I think part of the trap people fall into when they think about mastermind groups is, what am I getting out of it, right? And if you have that mindset, what am I getting out of it? It might be a very short-lived approach, right? Because you're just take, and people see that, right? Whereas if you have a different mindset and say, okay, I want to give more than I take, like that takes a longer time to do, right? To continue to give before you take. And in mastermind groups, when you're doing that, I think that makes it a much more richer experience than you might have just take. So going back to your example, Raise Masters. So like they have like a bunch of modules, they teach you all this stuff, and you could go through it in a couple months. It's a lot of content, but you could go through it in a couple months and take. Okay, I learn. And then if that's all you were there for, then okay, then your question is, okay, now what? And if it's always about you, then yeah, you're going to be short-lived in the mastermind groups and you're probably not going to get a lot out of it. But for me, I always want to try to be giving more. And so you have to be a part of something to find out like when somebody needs something or when somebody asks something. I was literally just yesterday hosting one of their coaching calls. And, and so like I'm one of the coaches and that's like a great way for me to give back. I couldn't do that on day one, right? Like they had to kind of see who I am and see that I've been around. And then they asked me to start leading these coaching calls. And now like I'm very actively able to give back to a whole group of people that are on an hour-long Zoom call, just asking me questions and talking about my experiences and helping them out through the coaching call. Like that was a really good way of giving back that I couldn't have done if I'd only been there for a year. I'll give you another example with the real estate guys. I was going through a really, really tough time on a deal with financing, and we were really short on financing. And I had to say, like, okay, I needed to reach out to the leaders of the group and say, hey, guys, I got a problem, and do you have any help for me? And I had both of them on the phone that day to talk with me and make connections to very high-level people that week. I was able to talk to very high-level people because I'd asked for something, but I'd been there a long time. Like I earned the right to ask, right? And they did everything they could to help me and connected me with some very powerful people to help us with some financing that we needed. Mm-hmm. And like you're not going to get that if you show up to a group and you're only there for a few months or maybe even a year. Like you have to be a contributor, and then when you need to ask, people are going to know you. They're going to be like, oh yeah, Chad. Of course, we had to help Chad out. He's done so many things. Like, how could we not? Mm-hmm. And that is where I really think the power of mastermind groups can really start to make a difference.
Yeah. Oh, I love what you just shared. Number one thing, right? The takeaway for me is definitely approach it with an abundance mindset, right? The ability to give as much as you can. But you also have to set the right boundary. Now, my question to you, I'm going to put you on the spot for a little bit, is that when you and I first met, you have this tendency of, I'm not sure if I should ask this and that, this favor and this and that. I noticed through my community, you're not the only person, right? There's a lot of people, successful people, I'm not going to list who they are. They have this imposter syndrome, like I do. Like, I'm not worthy enough to talk to this very successful investor. So it seems like a lot of people go through this type of flow. I'm not the only one, you're not the only one, afraid to ask. So my question to you is, at what point do you think is it okay for people to ask for a favor? Because I feel like a lot of us will join the mastermind group. Some people, no shame, I'll ask whatever I want, even if I haven't built a relationship. Some people are more like you. I'm going to add so much value to this person to the point where they cannot reject me when it's time for me to ask for help. What's the fine line when it comes to asking for favors and help?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I think it depends, and I think it varies over time. So if, people, as they're kind of going through their own journey, wherever they're at in terms of this, asking favors, journey, learning, helping others, they're going to come across opportunities where they can, ask very quickly or wait a long time and provide value then ask, right? And they're going to kind of test both cases and see what works and what doesn't work, and they'll kind of learn to see what they're comfortable with, right? Like for me, I don't know if it's trying to be so self-sufficient. Like I tend to delay that a lot, like you mentioned, and I try to build up a lot of brownie points before I go and talk to somebody. But in some cases, I haven't had the privilege of time, right? Like some things might have had to be very urgent, where I say, hey, I just really got to ask you for a favor, and then it's on them right at that point. Like, are they the type of person that has that abundant mindset, and maybe at one point in their career, somebody did the exact same thing, or they did the same thing to someone else, and that person helped them. Like, wow, you're really helping me. And if they remember that, they'll want to pay it forward at some point. And maybe I'm the lucky guy, right? Maybe they're like, yeah, you know what? This person helped me out, and I'm going to help them out. I talked to you about that with John, right? and he helped me out so much, and I felt grateful, and I can tell I'm thankful and give him gifts and all this stuff. But But maybe the most important way to give praise to what he did was to pay that forward to somebody else. And that's what I wanted to do with you. And I remember our conversation, you even said, like, Chad, like, why are you helping me out so much? And he's like, why are you doing all this stuff? I'm like, well, someone did it for me and I want to do it for you. So if people have that kind of mindset of paying it forward, then you could get lucky when you need to and asking a favor right away. But on the flip side, I think we all know people who are very quick to ask for favors all the time from everybody. You know what I mean? And it gets around like, come on, like that person's a taker. What are you going to do for me? And they ask nicely and all that stuff, but it's too much. It's too much. Yeah. And then it gets around. And then at the one point when they really do need something seriously and they already have that reputation, they're probably not going to get it, right? And they're not going to get it when they really need it the most. So like those people, and they come and go. Like you see those people. We see them at the Phoebe meetups. They're at ITI. We'll see them show up, and they're always ask me. They're like the business card folks, right? Here, call me. Like those types of people. And they're gone in 3 meetings, right? Like they don't stick around because they kind of burned out that approach and they need to go try to do it somewhere else. Yeah. It's a very short-term approach, I think. But that being said, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for a favor right away when you need it. Mm-hmm. And you might find somebody that's willing to do it. I just wouldn't really recommend that approach all the time. I think longer term, be somebody that gives a lot more than they take, and then that'll come back to you in extra rewards.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. So those people that just pass out not gift cards, they're business cards. It's I feel like they're just more transactional, right? In their head, they're probably thinking it's a numbers game. Yeah. The more I pass out, the more results I get. Whereas it's so different if you actually believe in collaboration, community, networking, masterminds, and all that. Everything we touched upon in the show. Why we do what we do is to really, at the end of the day, it's not about the information. It's really about that relationship, right? You gotta water the seeds that's around you, so that the seed will bear fruit eventually one day, and you're able to take that resource and level yourself up and take your business to the next level. Yeah. When it's time, right? Because everybody has timing when it comes to that.
It's like the analogy that we've heard a bunch of times, like being a farmer rather than a hunter, right? So the farmer's got to nurture the soil and the seeds and the trees before it finally bears fruit, right? But that's what a farmer does, and eventually it will bear a lot of fruit. The hunter goes in for the kill, makes the kill, and then it's got to go on the hunt for something else, right? It's not a relationship. It's a different type of relationship on the hunter and the prey. So, I really want to do more of the farmer mentality. I guess at some point, maybe there's a hunter you need to do at some point, but by and large, I think the farmer mentality is a much better, longer term approach.
Yeah. Absolutely. So with that type of approach, you've applied it everywhere you go, whether it's business, whether it's real estate investing and mastermind. Tell us a good example, like, a story of a deal you got into that worked really well because of the farming you did for years, and all of a sudden now it's coming back to you, whether it's through deal, whether it's through partnerships. It doesn't matter, anything in life. Can you share one example?
Yeah, so this one could be a good example for at least those in your audience that are starting out, and they're wanting to raise money for real estate. And I'll tell you, and you might have heard it in the banking world, the worst time to ask for money is when you need it, right? That's the worst time. Mm-hmm. So actually, I think my first deal is a good example of this, because I had been nurturing relationships for a long time, but I wasn't raising money, in real estate, right? I had relationships and I did business and all this stuff, but I wasn't raising money for real estate. But when I finally was doing a deal, like, I had people that were willing to invest in it because they knew me, they knew the relationship, they knew what I would do, and it was actually, a lot easier than I thought to raise money for that first deal. And I think I raised about like 1.2 million on my first deal that I did on my own. And that was, it was easier than I thought it would be. And we're still in that deal today. And it's done really well. I'm really happy about that. But I'll say that start raising money before you need it. And when I say raising money, I'm talking about relationships, investing in relationships, investing in these groups before you need the money. Because if you just come out cold turkey like a hunter and shoot from the hip on raising money, like it's not going to work out very well for you. So you have to be willing to put in the time, and then the money comes later.
Yeah. I definitely learned that lesson the hard way. When you and I first met, I thought because of my list of investors, I can get them to invest in my deal, but it doesn't work that way, right? You got to build that relationship. You got to get them to know, like, and trust you, and through just all those platforms I talked about earlier. Can you give an example? Because we're still got time. Example of the trial and errors, like things that didn't work out through the partnerships that you've done.
Yeah, so I mean, look, we're filming this in 2025, and we've had a rough couple years, right? With interest rates going where they've gone,
Sure.
Has been very challenging. Pretty much for any bridge debt, variable rate debt deal has had significant challenges in the last 18 to 24 months. So that's been very challenging. Paused distributions, capital calls. It's been a big problem. So it's like, and it's, I don't know. I mean, there's challenges. It doesn't matter what deal you're in. There's going to be challenges at some point, right? And if you're in the game long enough, you've had challenges. So I think the question becomes, like, how do you handle the challenges, and how do you kind of work your way through those challenges? It's, right now, like, the name of the game is, trying to hold on to what you've got. And, whether you're buying interest rate caps or, cash in refinancing, move into fixed rate debt, like there's moves that need to be made right now. And a lot of it costs a lot more money, right? And investors aren't happy about that, right? Capital calls, working through that,
Sure.
has been really challenging. So we're all, waiting for the 10-year to come down and for cap rates to compress. That's what we're waiting for and hoping for. And in the meantime, trying to hang on to what you have and not sell in this market. It's part of the reason why transaction volume is down as much as it is, right? Mm-hmm. No one is selling unless they have to right now. Mm-hmm. So, and that's creating a challenging time for operators and sponsors like us to figure out how to navigate through those waters. And going back to the relationships, like, relationships with bankers, other fund managers, gap funding, rescue capital, like those sort of relationships are really important as you try to get creative on how not to sell your property. Right.
So that actually what is going to be my last question is, in terms of turmoil, downturns, and so forth, would you say, because I pride myself for building a community through my real estate meetup, and now as I continue to expand my reach, my network, I feel like there's not a problem that I can't solve by just tapping into my network and asking a person to maybe refer me someone that could help me with this problem. Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of you obviously are ways ahead. Your network is so much bigger than mine. So, would you say that in these downturns, like, would you be able to leverage relationships and to help you solve these problems that you're encountering, or are those just not really realistic?
I think it depends on the situation. Some you can, and some you can't. Like you can't squeeze blood out of a rock, right? Yeah, so, like, some things, like, despite your best efforts, you might not be able to do. But I think your ITI example is a really good one, right? Like, you're not getting paid to do ITI, you're not getting paid to start it and to run it. I know it's taken a ton of time. Like, this is something you're doing to help other people and to give back to the community, right? But what do you get in return for that? Like, immediately you get nothing, right? But long term, and I know you're a long-term vision guy, long term, these relationships be very strong for you. And I know in the last year or so that you've had this mindset change to where, like, you feel invincible because you know so many people now, and you've given so much to these people in terms of this organization that you've created, that now like you could pick up the phone and they're going to answer when Jim calls. Like, oh yeah, Jim, what do you need? I'll help you out. Right? Like your brownie point bank is really high because of that group. But that's what I'm saying. Like it takes time to do that, right? You didn't get that after one meeting, right? You didn't get that after showing up to Phoebe for one meeting. But you keep growing the group, you keep showing up, you keep bringing in guests that bring value to the group. And all of a sudden, like they see that, yeah, Jim's done a lot for me. Like, and you could call a bunch of different people that you want right now, and you could ask for a favor, and they're going to go to the ends of the earth to try to get you whatever you're looking for, right? And that to me is like part of the value that you're getting in return for doing that. That being said, sometimes real estate doesn't go the way you want it to go, right? All the favors in the world, you might not be able to get out of some situations. So, but I think what's important is that you've got the connections and the relationships to try to really give the best effort moving forward to have the best possibility of going from A to B, right? It doesn't mean you can always do that, but you have a really, really good shot with your network and the investments that you've made to be able to do that. And if it doesn't happen, maybe it's not meant to be. You're not going to get out of everything unscathed. I mean, these are investments. This is real estate. It's cyclical like a lot of things, right? Neither of us have the crystal ball. So there's going to be some challenges, right? But you got some tools in your tool belt to do as well as you can to get through it.
Absolutely. Oh man, that was so good. Mic drop moment. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience? We left out.
I would encourage. I think there's a lot of good stuff we went over today. I would just encourage people that no matter where you are in your journey, to work on developing yourself and helping others. I mentioned, the first time I got a mentor, I was in my 40s, right? Like, so you're never too late to start and try something new. And for me, that's been very, very helpful. I think I was a little late to the game. I wish I would have done it sooner. But I would just encourage everybody, no matter where you're at in your game, right, that you can always level up and do better. I mean, like, look at Steve, right? We know Steve, he's an amazing guy, successful business guy, he's an older guy, and he's still leveling up and improving and continuing to learn, right? Yeah. So I think if anyone has like those types of people in your life that you can recognize older people that have done really well and continue to improve and grow and change, like look at that as a model. And try to implement it regardless of where you are in your journey.
Yeah, I do have one more follow-up question to that. You said you didn't find your mentor until 40 years old. Is it because you had such a long, successful run that you haven't had issue to just continue to do everything on your own? I mean, you raised $1.2 million by yourself and syndicate multifamily projects by yourself without a team. So is it because of that reason that you just never thought, I need a coach or a mentor? What was the reason behind?
Yeah, I think it was probably a bit short-sighted. I mean, like I mentioned, I'm a big education learner guy. Right. I work hard. And so I kind of always thought that I could figure it out and do it on my own. And the truth is, most of us can. It's going to take a little bit more time, or maybe a lot more time, a lot more effort. And I think I was probably a bit stubborn in wanting to do everything myself. And I think that's a shortfall. Like in hindsight, I wish I wouldn't have done that, right? I think I could have done a lot more things if I would have been more open to working with other people and reaching out and investing in myself in that way. But I did kind of the school of hard knocks approach, the stubborn approach, I worked really hard and I learned a lot of things along the way, but I think I could have done it more efficiently if I would have reached out and had mentors and coaches in these mastermind groups sooner.
So when you and I first met at Investor Summit, was that like about the turning point where you're like, okay, I need to find other people to help with my multifamily syndication, and I need a team and so forth? Because you have done everything on your own up to that point, right? From my understanding.
Yeah. I mean, I was a sole operator, GP guy, and I mean, it was CEO of my business. Like I was always doing everything on my own. So like I learned a ton, right? I learned a lot. So I can't shortchange that. Yeah. But I probably could have done more. And you're right, when we met at Investor Summit, when it was at 2021 or something like that, 2020. Yeah, that's like around the time when I said, you know what, I got to show up and I got to work with other people. I don't want to do everything on my own, and I want to try to work smarter, not harder. Like that was like a transformational time for me. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. For me too. You know, that was my very first step out of my comfort zone and attending conferences. And then, you know, I met you and the rest was history. It's so freaking good. I still continue to get a return on investment just from that one event alone. Yeah. So I'm sure you've gone through the same thing too. So yeah. So how can our audience find more about you?
Yeah. So best thing is probably chad@passiveinvesting.com. You can email me directly, and then also just passiveinvesting.com online. Probably the two best ways.
Social media channels? No.
It's just Chad Zdenek.
Chad Zdenek, okay.
Yep. LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook is at Chad Zdenek.
Awesome. Well, guys, that concludes another episode of The Real Estate Path. Stay tuned for another exciting one. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Chad.
You bet.